Well, look, I've been looking for an opportunity to recreate the experience we had at Greatland Gold again for a while now. And obviously, Greatland Gold, we managed to build a company at one point that had a market cap over £1 billion when I was there. And looking for that, really a platform to do that again. So if you want to build $1 billion company, you've got to start by identifying and bringing into the stable those types of projects. You really want to be going, I think, after these big geophysical targets that have the potential to add hundreds of millions of tonnes of mineable material if the grade is there. And that's where you can really, build something of scale if you're successful.
Today is Gervaise Heddle, the non-executive chairman at Buxton Resources. Gervaise, it's great to be speaking to you. Thank you very much for your time. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, and it's great to see you, Mark. I've been watching your videos intently over a number of companies the last few years, but it's quite odd to be on the other side of the camera again. But it's great to see you, and I'm very glad to be here talking to you about Buxton Resources.
Indeed, I'm very glad to be speaking to you as well. I think it's very interesting. I don't know if you're timing this well at the minute. We know the markets are pretty tough, particularly in London. But just tell us, people will know you, of course, from Greatland Gold all those years ago, and that amazing Havieron discovery there. So what's tempted you to sort of come back? What do you like about Buxton?
Well, look, I've been looking for an opportunity to recreate the experience we had at Greatland Gold again for a while now. And obviously, Greatland Gold, we managed to build a company at one point that had a market cap over £1 billion when I was there. And looking for that, really a platform to do that again. And it's not easy. I've had, obviously, a number of approaches from people to be chairman, CEO of various companies, but it's really hard to find the right team of people, set of projects, set of skills, jurisdiction. So what really attracted me to Buxton was, obviously it's a market cap there is quite low at the moment, it's sub 10 million Australian dollars, I think, as we speak. But there's some really good people there and excellent project generators, which is one of the things you really want in the company. People who can bring in high quality projects for real targets that could be really sizable targets and keep bringing them in so you can churn through them. So that was the first thing that attracted to me. Obviously, the fact most of those projects we have are 100% owned. We do have a number of joint ventures with IGO as well, but most of our projects are 100% owned, which I think is always a plus. And the jurisdictions we're in are Australia and the US, in Arizona in particular, or WA in Australia, which I think are great jurisdictions to if you actually discover something, you can deliver a mine. So those were all the main things that sort of attracted me to it in the first instance. But then also the projects, there's a really exciting set of projects there where if you're looking for big geophysical targets and projects that have that right scale from day one, where if you actually get a hit, it could really transform the company and make it a very big company. We've really got, I believe, those projects there at Buxton, and we're going to be actively working on at least a couple of those over the course of this year.
Okay. Really interesting that you say you sort of almost want to recreate what you did at Greatland Gold. And interesting as well that you say you've got to start from day one. So what is it, do you think, that sets apart companies that look great from day one versus sort of random explorers, let's say?
Well, I think it's going in the mindset of you've got to start where you want to finish. So if you want to build $1 billion company, you've got to start by identifying and bringing into the stable those types of projects, and have the right people, to work on those sort of projects. I think if a lot of explorers go out there, probably at the moment, a lot of people are going out there looking for a little bit of gold, which makes sense. The gold price is high. Mm-hmm. But if you're following narrow vein quartz gold systems, in various parts of the world, that's not necessarily going to deliver, even if you're successful, the sort of scale that I'm looking for. You really want to be going, I think, after these big geophysical targets that have the potential to add hundreds of millions of tonnes of mineable material if the grade is there. And that's where you can really, build something of scale if you're successful. So I think as I say, you've got to start where you want to finish. We want to finish, by building a very large company. And so we've got to start with those sorts of targets, and the people are focused on finding those. And I think, Marty Maloney and the team at Buxton are perfect for that.
So it's people and it's scale, and that's really what you're going for here. So let's just look at the project. And so Madman, that's the one that's, I think, the focus at the moment. And you've got a target there that you say is Havieron-like. but it's under shallow cover. So just tell us a little bit about that. Is it just a target at the moment?
Yeah, so look, at the moment it's a geophysical target. It is it's basically a Havieron lookalike, and we believe potentially it's hosted by the same general type of geological event that happened at Telfer and Havieron, and that's based on some other work that previous explorers did nearby. But it's a Havieron lookalike. It's that same bullseye mag signature. It's also about the same scale as Havieron, based at least on those on that geophysics. Interestingly, it's much closer to surface. So this is, we believe, within about 200 basements, within about 200 metres of surface. So that's quite exciting. But I think, look, it is quite a conceptual target. There hasn't been any drilling on it before, so we'll just have to see where that one comes. And I think that'll be the second one we do this year. The first one off the rank is a huge target called Centurion.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk about Centurion then. That's copper and gold, IOCG, that you're targeting here.
That's right. So that's a potential IOCG target. It's a massive target. It's a offset gravity and mag anomaly. It's about 5 kilometres long, 3 kilometres wide. It's same sort of geophysical signature as Olympic Dam, which is one of the largest mines in the world in South Australia. And look, it's a huge target. The geologists on the team are very excited about it for a variety of reasons. There was one previous attempt to drill it in about 1991. CRA went out and tried to drill it. They didn't get to basement at 430 metres. They hadn't got there yet. But we started to get hints of the sort of rocks that you'd expect to see potentially if you were sitting above an IOCG. So I think there was some real technical encouragement in that drill core, although that was a very long time ago in 91. But certainly from a desktop perspective, this is a standout target, and if there's anything there, it'll be very exciting, because that is an absolute company maker, that target. And we're looking to drill that one in June of this year.
Okay, well, let's just have a quick look at the proposed timeline. I know you've got other projects as well, but your focus is, of course, Centurion and Madman. So you're looking to start, earth moving, into Q2, so fairly soon then, and drilling throughout the summer?
Right. Yeah, that's right. So drilling Centurion in June, and then Madman soon thereafter. So just depending on logistics, and we've got to get a heritage survey done there. But that's and then we've also got some other projects. So I think Matrix, which is a manganese project in the US, that's potential for later in the year. But there's quite a few other projects in the mix which are very exciting. So I think the board still, now bear in mind I'm only 2 weeks into this, Mark, but I think we need to have a bit more of a discussion about some of the other projects beyond that and what we're really going to drive. But I would highlight to investors that in addition to some of these large geophysical targets, we've also got an interesting portfolio of call options in something called Graphite Bull, where we've got a graphite deposit, 20 million tonnes of ore at 10% graphite, that I think is quite compelling. It's just a more difficult project in this graphite price environment. But then also we've got a really exciting project in the US, a potential copper moly porphyry system in Arizona under Copper Wolf, and part of that ground is already joint ventured with IGO, but we own a couple of other parts of it 100%. And I think there's some real potential and some real value in that project. So we'll be hopefully talking a lot more about that one this year as well.
Excellent, good. Well, just a final question, if I can, Gervaise. If we take where we are right now, which is effectively geophysical targets, I would fair to say I think it's sort of early stage exploration, if we call that point A, yes. And point B would be, let's say, Q3 after the drilling. What do you want point B to look like? And also importantly, was all that work costed for?
Yes, so we've actually got, for Centurion, for example, we've got some government money for that. I think $200,000, and the drillers there, I've been talking to them about maybe some equity for the drilling as well. So there's various options there, but look, where we hope to get to is certainly on something like Centurion, which again is that massive IOCG target. If we can get into basement and then get a sense of those rocks, and if there's any evidence that has indeed been a major hydrothermal event, and we're getting sort of the right anomalism even of elements that you'd be looking for, copper, gold, uranium, and many others, then iron obviously, then I think we'd be very excited about that, because the prize there is huge, the potential prize.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Gervaise Heddle, the non-executive chairman at Buxton Resources. Looking forward to following the story and diving a bit more into the detail of the projects when we can.
Well, that'd be great. And thank you very much for your time, Mark. It's been great to see you again.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programmes at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.